watching today. Welcome to my channel. This is my first video for this channel, and I'm kind of nervous, but at the same time I'm very excited because this has been a long time in the making. I have had the intention on making this channel for a few years now, and I've finally, I know that I've been getting a lot of signs and synchronicities that it's time to share my wisdom. It's time to share my story. So I will give a disclaimer: beware. This is going to be very honest. This is going to be very raw, unfiltered, a very vulnerable and personal place. This is my truth, and my intention is that I hope that I can help even just one person to help understand the journey that they're on through the journey I've been on. My journey has been very up and down, and I've hit so many rock bottoms that I've lost count, but I've come out of it with love and humility and wisdom. That's the one thing I would never replace, is the humility, love, and wisdom that I have found on my journey, my spiritual journey, and personal growth. So I'll be sharing some stories of my personal experiences that I've endured, and also other things, other topics along spirituality, lifestyle, everything, you name it, things that I've learned along the way. And like I said, this is something that I have been wanting to do for a really long time. I felt, I guess, from a very young age, I always knew that there was, I don't really know how to explain it, that there was something more for my life, but not in a way that needed to be like special, but I felt destined, or like I had a mission. That's a better way of putting it. I had a mission, and my mission was to help people, but I didn't know how I could help people. You know, in school you learn all these different like career fields that you want to do, and the one thing that stuck out to me was I wanted to learn psychology. I was very fascinated with how the brain worked, the mind worked, and people, and why we do what we do. And then and which I did some college and learned a lot, but then I realized it wasn't really for me. I needed more than that. And then, you know, fast forward a couple of years and different relationships and experiences and ups and downs, and what brought me to where I want to start this is 4.5 years ago, I'd say, about 4.5 years ago, that started or activated my spiritual journey. That's what I really want to focus on talking about. That's where all of my life prior to that was necessary, all that growth, and those experiences and the people that I've, who've been in my life, they were necessary parts to this journey. But what I want to share, aside from that, more so is the spiritual side that happened 4.5 years ago. So that's kind of the story that I'll touch on today, like how I got to this point where I'm at now. And also too, like I was saying before, wanting to help people, having a mission, I guess, and knowing that there's something more. I want to share my journey, and I want to share my truth because I think it's worth sharing. I want to help and guide people to ascend to their purpose. I want this to be a place where people can not only just learn and grow or learn and understand information that maybe they weren't so sure of before, maybe that they didn't know of before, but I want to help them gain a sense of self-awareness, to know that other people are going through this, and to have a very clear awareness of not only what's happening, but where they're going, maybe how to handle that, how to handle and understand some of the experiences that they're also going through. Because I think that all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, this has actually been for as long as I can probably imagine, you know, feeling emotions and experiencing pain. Yeah, that's normal, but like, why is it such a taboo thing to express it and talk about it? Like, why are women defined as psychotic for expressing their sensitive side? You know, like, that's, to me, that's not okay. I mean, it's not that I should say what should or should not be done, but I don't feel that that's right. I believe in being truthful and honest and raw always, and accepting that part of you that may be sensitive. But more than that, it's learning how to integrate the good or bad, or so we call it, or integrating the light and the dark. Because a very valuable lesson that I have learned more so recently is that with all the darkness, with all the pain, with all the sorrow and sadness and challenges and obstacles, with all of that darkness comes the lessons. And with, on the opposite side of that, what's good, or the pleasant things, the happy times, the light, that's where the healing is. You can't have one without the other. And that's what I really want to talk about, especially more so in this video today, like how I got started and how I learned to integrate the light and dark of myself, because like I said, I want this to maybe help somebody, or all of you who are watching, to understand and learn how you can also do that, because that's where the growth happens. When you learn how to integrate and accept and love all aspects of yourself, that's where true growth happens. And I think that's really important for people to know, not to hide, not to bury your emotions, not to like be judgmental of your pain and your situations that you've gone through, but to know that it's okay to feel those things, and it's okay. I want you to learn how to give love and acceptance to those things that you're experiencing, and learn to ascend from there, to heal. That's what I want to talk about. So like I said, welcome to this channel. Brace yourselves. It'll be intense at times, but I'm ready for it, and I hope you are too. So today, I guess what I'll be talking about more so is what happened 4.5 years ago that brought me to this point. Everything that kind of started my spiritual journey, and also this will probably be a part 1 to maybe a 2 or 3 part series, just for the sake of time. I don't want to bore anybody to the point of where you might not watch my channel again, but I mean, I'm a Leo, so I talk a lot, so whatever, but I'm a Scorpio moon, so I get very deep. And I also have a lot of Cancer in my chart, so I think that's maybe why I'm so sensitive. Either way, but I have a mission. My mission is to help. My mission is to teach and to guide. My intention is to help you and everyone watching me to ascend on your journey. So let's get started. So where to begin? So about 4.5 years ago, like I was saying, give or take, I was in a relationship. I was happy. I was in love. We were in love. We lived together. We also lived with his with his brother. Sorry, and we would party a lot. There was a lot of fun. That was kind of my life at that time. From like 18 to probably 24, 25. Was all party and lots of crazy experiences, you can say. I was a bit of a rebellious, wild child, but I'm not so much that anymore. I mean, I'm a little bit rebellious, but I'm not so wild as I used to be. But anyways, we had a crazy time. We had some crazy times. And his brother was an alcoholic. And he was so sweet and kind, but he also had some deep, dark issues. I think he wasn't sure how to handle, and I think the only escape for him was from drinking copious amounts of booze. And there were a couple of times where things got a bit out of hand, but this one particular time, being the last time that changed everything, was the worst situation I personally encountered from him. I think also with my ex too. I think it was probably the worst he had encountered. He came home and it got very bad, and he got physical with the both of us, and it was a mess. It was a dramatic mess. Anyways, I won't go into the details. I'll spare you that. But anyways, I was forced to move out, and I didn't want to, but I had to. I knew what I had to do. But at this time, it was a one of those rough rock bottom moments. I had a couple jobs. One was full-time, the other was part-time. The full-time job, I kind of got screwed over on a big bonus check, and then I didn't work there anymore. And then the other job was seasonal, and they shut down, so I didn't have that job anymore. So I was like in between jobs, you can say. So I would have been, and also get this, I was saving up money at the time. I was working so many hours, and I was saving up money to get a new car. And so but in that week prior to that, I think it was the week prior, on two separate occasions, I had about $1,400 stolen from me. So on top of all my money being stolen and being in between jobs, and then with this whole crazy situation happening with my ex and his brother, I was forced to move out, and I wasn't really ready to move home yet. I kind of wanted to see if I could figure out another situation or another place to go, and so I stayed with a friend of mine for 2 weeks. This friend of mine, at this present moment, right now, I'm not speaking with her, although she's trying very hard to reach out to me, but we've been friends for about 23 years. But that story with her, I'll touch a little bit for the sake of this story I'm talking about, but like my relationship as a whole with her, that's going to be a story for another day, because I have a lot to share about that. There's a lot to that, a lot of intensity and a lot of emotion, but a lot of growth too. Anyway, so I stayed with her for 2 weeks, and so we were raised very differently. Our families were very different. My mom and my family, we're like normal people, whatever, we fight sometimes, but like for the most part, my mom liked our home to be very calm and peaceful and loving. Although we've had some really hard times as a family, but we were very close. And that was important. But my friend, her family, there was a lot of anger, violence, anxiety. There was a lot of negativity just filled their home with so much hostile, angry negativity, and it was just like a thick, dark cloud when you would go into the house. And at that time, I obviously did not realize yet how sensitive to energy I was. I didn't realize how sensitive I was to people's energy or energy in general. So being there for 2 weeks. Now, one thing about us, we would fight a lot. We would clash because, one, we're both Leos. Not to say that Leos fight and clash, but us, we were so similar. We are mirror images of each other. That's the best way I can explain it. We're both a Leo. However, this is something I actually realized somewhat recently, is that she is, I guess, all the darkest parts of me, all the dark parts that I choose not to embrace, the parts of me that I don't ever want to be, but like parts that I know are there because they've come out in certain situations or experiences, but that's not who I want to be. She's very narcissistic, manipulative, controlling, angry, and negative, very negative, very, very negative. So being around that energy for 2 weeks was challenging, to say the least, very challenging. And not only that, but like because of her, like some situations that she was going through, and what I was also going through, that I'll get into in another video, but she stole like the last of my money and we were fighting all the time. And so at the end of the 2 weeks, I was at my wit's end. I needed to get the hell out of there. So I sucked it up and I moved back home to mom. And I was stubborn about it because I didn't want to be, you know, the age that I was. I think I was 25 at the time. And I didn't want to move back home. You know, I think it was a pride thing. I had been living on my own all this time since then. And the last thing I want to do at 25 is move back home, right? So, but I didn't really have a choice. I had to. So I went home and with just my mom. It was just the two of us. And it was kind of awkward at first because my mom and I, at that time, we had some unresolved history. There was some conflict, that a lot of things that happened with our relationship, which that'll be another video. Actually, I just thought of that. That'll be another video because it's a very empowering story. I think that might help a lot of mothers and daughters alike. So, needless to say, it was awkward at first, but it wasn't bad. Nothing bad. Nothing at all bad. There was just like that underlying tension, I think, and probably uncomfortable for the both of us. I didn't want to be back home and she didn't want me. It's not that she didn't want me back home, but my mom had been living alone for so long. To have another presence in her home again, you know, that's kind of not fun, right? That kind of sucks. Well, I remember this first day moving home and my mom had left. She went somewhere and I was home alone. And I remember like pacing my house back and forth, back and forth. I had so much anxiety running through me that I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. I was pacing back and forth like a maniac. I had so much tension and nervousness and anxiety just from being in my friend's house for all this time. Also, because of the situation I was going through, things with my ex-boyfriend at the time were not very good because of what was going on. And I felt a distance from him. And at the time, I thought it was me. And then also, like what I just said, being at my friend's house was very hard for those 2 weeks. I was broke. I had no job and I didn't know what to do with myself. It was, you know, that's not a good place to be, right? So, and then as I'm pacing back and forth, and all of a sudden, there was something inside of my mind, and hindsight is always 20/20, right? I mean, knowing what I know now, I would bet money that it was probably like my spirit guides, my spiritual team, something, saying this to me. And it was like one word, just one word over and over again: meditate, meditate, meditate. So at first I'm like, okay, what the hell is that going to do? So, and then all of a sudden I what do I have to lose? So I gave it a shot, and it was like in that moment, something was actually kind of sort of guiding me to do what I did, because it was weird. I didn't have any experience prior to that or any prior knowledge of meditation. I didn't know anything about it, but somehow I intuitively knew to, I sat down, well, I grabbed a candle and I sat down on the floor and I set the candle right in front of me on the ground, and I lit it. And then all of a sudden I just kind of knew like to breathe in and out. And I was gazing into this candle, and I remember like following my breath, and I was paying very close attention to what it felt like to breathe in and what it felt like to exhale. And all of a sudden I could feel like this weight slowly starting to lift. And then I went somewhere, and all of a sudden some time has passed, and I hear the door open, my front door, because I was in the living room, and it was my mom walking in. It scared the shit out of me, of course. And I looked at my phone and I realized 30 minutes had passed, and I didn't, what? 30 minutes? I felt like I was out for 2 minutes. So it must have worked, but I didn't really feel like I fell asleep. I know I went somewhere though. Besides that, I felt relaxed and I felt the sense of relief. I was shocked. I was shocked because it actually worked. I couldn't believe it actually worked. And I remember getting a really good sleep that night, and just thinking back, like I remember I was like obsessing over how much I couldn't believe how much better I felt just by sitting in silence and breathing, right? But then, so anyways, the next morning I wake up and I try it again because I was like thinking, I was like reminiscing over how well I felt in like that experience. So I wanted to experience it again. So I did. And then after that, I remember I watched the movie Lucy. And I don't know if you've ever watched that movie, but it's a really good movie. The point of that movie is, although she's given a drug to help her access 100% of her brain, but that's what I was fascinated with, was her being able to access 100% of her brain. That was like so crazy and astonishing and fascinating to me that I was starting to obsess over the idea of what if I could do that? Like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be the smartest person in the world. I wish I had access to all the unknown parts of my brain. Like, why is it that we can only access what we can? And what about all the parts that we can't? Like, all of a sudden it was like breeding all these new thoughts and ideas. Like, so I was doing research and somehow I ended up on YouTube searching for like hypnotherapy type of videos, which led me to binaural beats, and which then led me to the solfeggio frequency scales, and that was a game changer. That changed everything for me. I was listening to all these different healing frequencies, like not like during meditation, also, but not only that though, while I was sleeping, on my breaks from work, when I would wake up in the morning, just for whatever reason, I started to learn how to and understand that we have the ability to control our brain waves by listening to this frequency of music. Also that, like, I was starting to feel the effects that it would have. And like, that was amazing to me, that not only can this music affect me so much and make me feel so much better, but like also that's in part me controlling that. I have control over certain things of my body, and then and that's what started it all. That's like how my spirituality was triggered. In this time, while this was happening, and I was like finding all these new topics and ideas and learning all these new tools, my boyfriend at the time and I were going through a bit of a rough patch, you can say. It's not that at the time I thought it was me. There was like this wall between us, and I thought it was me, that he didn't want to. I thought the distance, that like there was a distance on his end, and I felt like I needed him. I needed him more than anything at this time. I was very vulnerable. I was lonely. I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. This was a new place that I wasn't like, what happened was completely unexpected. My life was just turned upside down. The one person I wanted the most was the one thing I needed the most was the comfort from my boyfriend, right? But he was also going through some shit. You know, his family was going through this horrible situation. You know, he and his brother, that whole thing, drama, and then other things going on with his family. And what I know now, that he loved me very much. I know that he did. I think what he had a hard time doing was he didn't know how to balance his life and his time with me, because he was trying so hard to like make it in life, to be successful, and to find happiness and peace, and he wanted a better life for himself, and you can't argue with that, right? But like I said, he didn't know how to balance like what he was trying to do for himself in his time with me. So there was that distance, like I was saying, distance between us, that wall. I could not break through it. So that created a lot of tension between us. But what it forced me to be was alone, in my own head, in my own thoughts. I was completely and utterly in my own, like I was in solitude. And I found a new job, by the way, which I'm still at the same job 4 years later, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. There were some challenging times at the beginning of the job because of certain people that I worked with. But all these things were necessary for my growth. It builds character, and with all these experiences, with some of those coworkers and with my ex-boyfriend that kept trying to beat me down, and I refuse to be beat down. I like I said, I am a Leo and I'm prideful, but not only that though, like something was happening inside of me and something was growing. There was this new phase, new chapter of my life, and it was starting to trigger this spiritual awakening that I was, a new journey that I was about to experience. So, like I was saying, there was that distance, and over time, he became so distant, and then all of a sudden, and I was in my own, like I was on my own, I was alone. I know now I needed to be alone. That's how I healed. I needed that time to heal, and the only time you can really heal is on your own and by yourself. I've realized that. I mean, at least for me, that's what worked, and I hated being alone before that. I hated it. So it was really uncomfortable for me at first, but knowing now, like I said, it was necessary. So the more I would dive deep into my spiritual awakening and all these new things happening to me, and these new thoughts, these new feelings, these new experiences, these new topics, these new tools, everything, then the tables were turning. I was becoming more distant from him, and he was becoming more needy. And I was starting to realize, like, I don't think I'm in love with him anymore. And that was really hard because we were in love. I felt bad. I felt guilty. I felt regret, sort of, at the time. I don't now. But he was trying so hard to make it work, and I felt so bad because I just couldn't give him that anymore. Like, I think it was his distance that triggered that for me. And then in the end, that was the demise of our relationship. Was like, his distance is what forced me to be alone, which being alone forced me to heal, which forced me to realize certain things about myself and certain aspects of myself, which triggered the spiritual awakening. So the spiritual awakening was triggered by circumstance, It wasn't like some random meditation and I had this massive Kundalini awakening and it wasn't this blissful experience. No, it happened by pain. It happened by a really shitty situation, but that needed to happen though. And I can say that's pretty much my whole life, like shitty situation after shitty situation. But the one thing that has changed over time, the one thing that has evolved is my perspective on it. For what I used to think I used to say something like, if it weren't for my bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. Okay, fuck that. Now I know I needed to go through that stuff. Like I did, like I said, shift in perspective, shift in perception, shift in my outlook. I know now that stuff was necessary for my growth and I needed it, and it's humbled me immensely. Anyways, so there was this rough patch with my boyfriend, and I went to this music festival with my best friends. It was my birthday weekend, and I really just wanted it to be a fun and cool experience, this moment for us to share and remember for the rest of our lives. I remember day 2, we took some acid. Remember, I said completely raw and unfiltered. I'm going to be real. And, but acid is any kind of hallucination. It doesn't have to be acid, mushrooms. I mean, whatever it is that you choose to do, you need to respect the drug, and it'll give you, if you respect it, it'll show you something. It'll show you something way beyond what your conscious mind can even like comprehend. It's so complex, but like it's a tool. If you want to open up your mind and experience something beyond this third dimension that we live in, if you want to experience something more and profound, you want to have some sort of growth experience. I mean, I feel like anybody who wants to have that sort of like growing experience or see beyond this in your everyday life, if you want to experience more, you should try it, but you have to respect it. You have to, and it will respect you. That's one thing is for sure. So anyways, we all engaged in this activity, and it was fun. I actually took a bit more than what I had ever taken before. And it started off really great, and it was really fun, and the music was perfect, and there's this people who ended up being really cool actually, and they were doing like a fire show. Like they would do all these tricks with different types of poi toys, but with fire. So fire dancing and fire spinning and all that. And it like blew my mind how cool it was. And I was like really lost in this moment and really present and appreciating it. And then when that ended, there was more music, another band went on, and then all of a sudden my trip started to really turn on me, like bad. It started to turn dark really quick. I was having a hard time being able to integrate the trip part of it and the reality of this, of my, perception, I guess. So shit got dark. I was getting pretty scared. I didn't know how to deal with it because it had never happened to me. I convinced my friend to go back with me to our campsite, and I remember looking up at the stars, like just trying to find peace and comfort any way that I can. And all of a sudden I felt this epiphany because prior to this, like I was saying, I was in a weird place with my ex-boyfriend, and I actually had broken up with him about a month prior to this, but we were still talking and going back and forth. He didn't believe me that I broke up with him. So he was still trying very, very hard. He was very persistent and trying to make it work. He was making me feel guilty. He was saying that I was giving up on love. So this part of me was so confused. I had no idea. I kept thinking to myself and questioning what I was doing. Am I giving up on love? Am I making the wrong choice by leaving him? Should I give it another chance, And through this experience, while I was tripping and as it was turning dark, I had, like I said, I was looking up at the stars, and all of a sudden I had this epiphany. And I'm like, I can't be with him. I know I'm not meant to be with him. At least for now, I'm not meant to be with him. And because for the first time, all of a sudden I had this feeling like I needed to commit to myself for once. I had to dedicate myself to my journey. I needed to dive deep. I mean, there was something more there that I needed to keep digging. I needed to get to some point. I knew there was something more, and I needed to get into it. I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to know and understand everything that was happening, this awakening of mine, this new journey. I needed to know. So, and he was not a part of this journey. That's what I realized that night. So what started off as this great experience that turned dark and scary and terrifying ended up being one of the most humbling and beautiful experiences of my life. It was a pivotal moment of my spiritual growth in that beginning part, because it was the first time that the universe had given me a sign or had spoken to me, and the first time I had listened. And from there, I knew exactly what I needed to do. So from there, and a lot of other things happened. People came into my life. One person in particular, who kind of posed as a spiritual teacher or mentor or something. I won't get into that, but we'll just say he was meant to come in my life when he did, and then that was it. It was only meant to be for a short period of time, because there was specific knowledge and wisdom that he had to share that I was meant to know. So we were meant to know each other for that short period of time, and then he kind of wasn't who I thought he was supposed to be, I guess. But anyways, so I learned a lot from him. And then from there, and I kind of was, thinking back, I was on like this high horse. I thought that, all of a sudden I have this spiritual awakening and I know what's supposed to happen next, and my life is going to be perfect and blissful and amazing and happy. And, I'm learning all these different outlooks and perspectives and different people's opinions. And, because the universe there's so much information and knowledge, and the universe is willing to share that. People, places, things, the universe has that information for you to just take bits and pieces with you as you go, if you're open to receiving it. And I was very open and willing to receive it. I wanted to so badly. And so each person, place, and situation that I had endured in that time was necessary to my journey. And so, with all this, I was hyped kind of, because I'm like, my life is finally starting to turn around. I felt a sense of purpose that I've never felt before. I've never in my life felt that sense of purpose and drive that I felt then. And not only that, I had never actually fully committed to myself and to my journey and to my life, to my happiness. For once, I was committed to my happiness. And the person who I was before, I would sacrifice every bit of my soul, every bit of my being for the person that I was with. Even to close friends of mine, I would sacrifice my own happiness to make sure they were happy and that they felt comfortable and that they were satisfied or whatever. In any situation with anybody who I really cared for, I went out of my way to always make sure that they knew that they were loved and cared for. But the thing is, that same love and effort and energy I put into it, that giving, was not always reciprocated back to me. It was always very one-sided. There's that quote or saying, we accept the love we feel we deserve. And at that time, for as long as I can remember, I was accepting the love that I felt that I deserved, which apparently was not much. Now is different. I've come a long way, obviously, which we'll get to that point. But, and with all this great knowledge and all these great tools, and then all of a sudden, so my mom got me a tarot card deck for, so it was my first tarot deck, and I gave myself a reading for the first time. And in this reading, I remember pulling, I think it was the World. Oh, no. It was the Wheel of Fortune, the Five of Pentacles, and the Tower. So I'm observing these cards and looking at the imagery, and that's weird. People are actually falling out of a burning castle. That can't be good. And then in the Five of Pentacles, there are these poverty-stricken people left out in the cold, and Wheel of Fortune wasn't so bad. Now I know now. Fate, karmic, karmic lessons, that sort of thing. That I understand the meaning to that reading now. But then I was terrified. I was so scared. The Tower, I'm like, that can't be good, right? To anybody who's ever pulled a Tower card for the first time, please tell me, you were terrified, right? Because that card is terrifying. Was terrifying. I have a different outlook on it now. If you know the meaning of that card, then it means, upheaval, destruction, basically an omen for bad times are coming. But I want to tell you right now, obviously, I didn't know this then, but what I know now is, it can mean that, but it also means internal shift of perception or perspective. So, and that's exactly what I was going through at that time. So, and then the Five of Pentacles to me is it was symbolic for my lack of mindset that I was coming out of. I was coming out of that negative place of me feeling like left out in the cold and feeling very codependent on everybody. I was not independent yet at all whatsoever. So I think that's what that card was for. And then the Tower, my life did go up in flames though. At that time, everything just came pouring down on me. You know that saying, when it rains, it pours? Well, that is what happened. And that card was trying to warn me. But what my mindset then was that I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I didn't know how to handle all of that shit that came my way. And I went through the dark night of the soul. And let me tell you, it was dark. It's called Dark Night of the Soul for a reason. But what I'm here to tell you is that it is necessary to our growth. You have to go through the darkness in order to understand the good in you. I mean, if you didn't go through anything shitty, or if you didn't go through any hardships, you would never appreciate anything good, right? I mean, if your life was always good, that would be pretty fucking boring, right? Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. But and that's what I'm trying to say is, although I was on this high horse right before that, thinking my life was going to be perfect and blissful because I'm on this spiritual awakening, I was knocked right off of that high horse. The universe smacked me right in the face and said, wake up, because it is not perfect. It is not blissful. It is not, yes, it is, but like sometimes there are dark times, and those dark times are necessary for your growth. And the one thing that taught me was humility. And humility. That's the best way I can put it. I learned to be humble. It knocked the humble right into me. But that was because I chose that. I chose to have a different outlook on it. I chose to have a better perspective. Not right away. Actually, this didn't happen until about, where are we? We're in January, December, November, October. Like 3 or 4 months ago, that's when I really, really took that concept of like, that shift of perspective and understanding and knowing that you have a choice how you want to react. You know, like that saying, forgive me, I don't remember who said it. There's a quote, life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. That couldn't be more true. I live by that now, because I know we have a choice in how we want to react, how we react to situations and circumstances in our life that we cannot control. The things we cannot control, if you just let go and release that sense of trying to control it, that's when good things will happen. That's when you let go of control for things to fall into place. It kind of contradicts itself, but there's meaning to that. And in this, on my journey and through my channel, the things that I'll be talking about, the topics I'll be discussing will be exactly that, like how to give up control, how to trust the process, and how to learn how to integrate the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all this, how to accept and love the enigma of life. Okay, because when you integrate the darkness and the light, that's where true growth happens. And where true growth happens, that's where true love and happiness and acceptance happens for yourself. This is only a journey that you can go on personally, and each journey is to each is their own. And I know my experience won't be your experience, but I hope that I can help guide you to a better understanding, to have a better perspective, so you can learn how to, so your journey, you know how to understand it, and how your journey can be a bit more pleasant, or how you can change your perspective or perception, and know that 1, everything is temporary, nothing lasts forever, but 2, if you can change your perspective, instead of being a victim to life, I hope that I can help you evolve your mindset to knowing that you create your reality. You have a choice in the matter. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I have learned on my journey, is exactly that. And no, it's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's hectic, and it's chaos, and it's dramatic, and it's intense. It's sometimes sad, and it's sometimes hurtful, but above all that, it's amazing. It's humbling. And I am in a place of love and acceptance because I've learned how to integrate, like I said, that dark and light. That is the yin and the yang, the divine feminine and the divine masculine of the soul. When you can learn how to integrate those traits, that's where true growth happens. That's what I really want to share with you on my journey, is how I've learned to integrate those parts of my life and myself. I guess in this video I was hoping to kind of share more of the story part, but for the sake of time, I think I'm going to do that in the part 2 of the video. I think this is a good introduction to this first video. But stay tuned, because I will have a second video and I will go more in depth into certain stories, certain situations that have happened, some experiences that I've endured. So that way, maybe if somebody is going through something similar, maybe I can help in some way. So yeah, I'm so grateful to anybody who's watching. Seriously, it means so much to me. And I hope that somehow my journey can be of help. And if so, continue to watch my videos, because like I said in the beginning, it'll be very intense. But the one thing is, it'll be nothing short of honest and true. It's my truth. And maybe it'll help you find your truth. And so yeah, thank you so much again for watching, and stay tuned for more. And love and peace, everybody. Namaste. See you soon.